The crack runs diagonal across parking level B2 of the Riverside Towers garage. 43 feet, maybe 45. I'm measuring with the Bosch laser because my tape measures in the truck and I'm not walking back up 4 ramps for this. Cosmetic. That's what I'm writing. Cosmetic settlement crack, monitor quarterly, no load-bearing compromise. I've been doing structural inspections for the city for 16 years. Building Safety Division, Infrastructure Assessment Unit. That's the department that decides if your home is going to kill you. We don't get thank you cards. The property manager's standing behind me breathing through his mouth. He does that when he's nervous. His name's Gil Trentham, and he manages 8 buildings in the Riverside complex, and he's worried I'm going to red tag his cash cow. Can't say I blame him. Last building I red tagged was the old Elks Lodge on Haverford, and they had to demo the whole thing. 52 units. Insurance fight lasted 3 years. So we're good. Gil says. You're good. Standard settlement. Foundation's 60 years old. You're going to get movement. Just keep people out of this section until Public Works patches it. How long's that take? 2 weeks if you're lucky. 6 months if you're realistic. I'm taking photos with the city tablet, 5 angles, date stamp, GPS coordinates. Everything by the book because the book is what keeps the lawyers away. File's going to say cosmetic, monitor quarterly. You'll get the report Friday. Gil relaxes. I can hear it in how he stops doing that mouth-breathing thing. Appreciate it, Dennis. Building's been here since '68, you know? Still solid. I don't tell him the Skyway apartments were built in '71 and killed 4 people when the south wall peeled off in 2019. Age doesn't mean safe. It just means old. My phone goes off, not a call, a text from my ex-wife Diane. Pick up Emma at 3:30 today, not 4. Dentist moved up. Emma's our daughter. 9 years old. 4th grade at Roosevelt Elementary, Mrs. Kowalski's class, no wait. Mrs. Patterson. I always get that mixed up because Emma had Kowalski in 3rd grade and loved her. Patterson she tolerates. Says she assigns too much homework. I text back, got it, and I'm already doing the math. It's 2:47 now. Roosevelt's on the east side. That's a 20-minute drive if I skip the expressway construction. I can finish the Riverside inspection, file the preliminary, grab Emma, still make my 5 p.m. at the water treatment oversight meeting. Assuming nothing goes wrong, which it always does. The tablet chimes. New work order. I'm reading it while walking back to the truck. Residential structure, 4800 block of Newhall Street. Interior doors compromised, possible foundation movement. Assigned priority 2, which means it's not an emergency, but it's not cosmetic either. I'm supposed to be there by end of business today. I call my supervisor. Randy Paxton, 23 years with building safety, 3 years from retirement, 0 patience for excuses. He picks up on the first ring. Kowalski. Randy, it's Dennis. Got the Newhall job, but I need to grab Emma at 3:30. Can I push this to tomorrow morning? How's Riverside? Cosmetic. 40-foot diagonal, no load-bearing issues, quarterly monitoring. Good. Yeah, Newhall can wait. Actually, he pauses. I hear papers shuffling. Randy still prints everything. Actually, we got another one this morning. Same block. 4820 Newhall. Resident called 911 saying her bedroom door won't open. Fire department went out there, said it's not an emergency, kicked it to us. 2 on the same block. Old neighborhood. Probably the same issue propagating. You know how those 1950s foundations are. They crack, drainage gets underneath, you get differential settlement. Check the first one tomorrow. If it's the same problem, I'll batch them together. Save us a trip. That makes sense. Efficient. I tell him okay and we hang up. But I'm thinking about those 2 addresses. 4848, 20 Newhall. 20 houses apart. That's not typical propagation. I don't finish that thought because I'm at Roosevelt Elementary and Emma's standing outside the main entrance with her backpack and her annoyed face. She's got Diane's eyes and my stubborn mouth and she's mad because she hates the dentist and I'm 7 minutes late. You're late, she says, climbing into the truck. I'm aware. Seatbelt. I told Mom I didn't need the dentist. My teeth are fine. Your mother says you do, so you do. How was school? Boring. Mrs. Patterson made us do multiplication tables for like an hour. I already know them. She's pulling at her seatbelt. It sticks sometimes. The truck's a 2018 F-150, city issued, 67,000 miles. Needs an oil change I keep forgetting to schedule. Are you staying for dinner after? Can't. I've got a meeting at 5. You always have meetings. That's because I'm very important and the city can't function without me. I'm trying to make her smile. It doesn't work. She just looks out the window and doesn't say anything. We're stopped at a red light on Carpenter Avenue, and I'm looking at her and thinking about how I used to be the fun parent, back before the divorce, back when I came home at reasonable hours and we'd watch those nature documentaries she loved. Now I'm the parent who's always 7 minutes late with a meeting to get to. The light turns green. I'm driving toward Diane's place. She got the house and the divorce. I got the truck and the retirement account. And my phone rings again. Randy. Yeah. Dennis, that Newhall situation. I'm looking at the map. Both addresses are almost directly above the old drainage bypass from the 64 infrastructure expansion. You remember that project? Before my time. Before mine too, but it's in the system. They ran a major underground utility corridor through that whole neighborhood. Water, sewer, electrical, storm drainage. All bundled. Thing is, the as-built documentation is incomplete. They didn't map everything. I'm pulling up to Diane's house. Emma's already got her seatbelt off. So you're thinking compromised underground void causing surface settlement? That'd be my guess. Just check it out tomorrow. Let me know if we need to call Public Works for a GPR survey. We don't want another Ferndale situation. Ferndale. That was 2 years ago. A sinkhole opened up under a Target parking lot and swallowed 3 cars. Nobody died, but the lawsuits are still active. The city learned its lesson about underground voids. Will do, I say, and Emma's already gone, running up to the front door where Diane's waiting. I wave. Diane waves back with her polite ex-wife smile that means, thank you for being on time for once. Except I wasn't on time. I was 7 minutes late. I drive to the water treatment meeting, and it's exactly as boring as I expect. Budget allocations, quarterly reports, compliance updates. I'm checking my phone under the table, not because I'm expecting anything important, just because sitting still for 90 minutes listening to people argue about phosphate filtration costs makes me want to put a drill through my skull. The meeting ends at 6:43 p.m. I'm driving home. My apartment's on the west side, 1 bedroom, $1,850 a month. I've been there since the divorce, and I'm passing through the Newhall district without meaning to. It's on the way. I slow down at the 4,800 block. It's a residential street. Post-war construction. Small lots, attached garages, big trees. I'm looking at 4,800. It's a brick ranch, probably 1,200 square feet, single story. Nothing looks wrong from the street. At 4820, same thing. Lights on inside. Cars in the driveways. Normal. Except doors don't just stop opening. Not 2 houses on the same block in the same week. I drive another block and I see it. 4,770 Newhall. There's a for sale sign in the yard and the house is tilted. Not collapsed. Not dramatically. Just wrong. The roofline isn't level. I stop the truck. I'm getting out. I shouldn't. I'm off the clock. This isn't my assigned work order. But I'm walking up to the property line and I'm looking at the foundation. There's a crack running under the front window. Vertical. Maybe 6 feet long. The crack's clean. No weathering. Recent. I look down the street. For houses down, another tilt. Subtle. The kind of thing you wouldn't notice unless you were looking. But I'm looking now. My phone's out. I'm calling Randy. He doesn't answer. It's after 7. He's probably eating dinner with his wife, watching TV, living his normal life. I hang up and I'm standing on Newhall Street in the dark, and I'm thinking about those underground utility corridors, and I'm thinking about drainage bypass systems, and I'm thinking about how the ground doesn't just fail in 20-foot increments. I get back in the truck. I drive home. I file the Riverside report. I drink a beer. I eat leftover pizza. I go to bed. At 3:17 a.m. my phone rings. It's dispatch. Inspector Kowalski, we've got a structure failure at 4812 Newhall Street. Resident trapped inside. Fire department requesting immediate structural assessment. I'm already getting dressed. What kind of failure? Building settled overnight. Resident says all the doors are jammed, windows won't open. They're trapped inside but not injured. Fire's breaking in now. I'm pulling on my boots. I'm grabbing my gear. I'm in the truck and I'm driving toward Newhall, and I'm doing 90 on the empty streets, and I'm thinking about how 4812 is between 4800 and 4820, and how that's 3 houses on 1 block, and how the ground doesn't fail like that. Not naturally. Not without a reason. The fire trucks are already there when I pull up. 3 units, engine 17, ladder 9, and a rescue squad I don't recognize. Red lights painting the whole street. It's 3:51 a.m. and neighbors are standing on their porches in bathrobes. Captain Jerome Hallis meets me at the property line. I know him from the Ferndale sinkhole. He ran scene command when those cars went down. Good man. Doesn't panic. Inspector, we've got one resident inside, female, age 67. Catherine Vance. She called 911 at 3:00 for saying she couldn't get out of her bedroom. We forced entry through the back door 10 minutes ago. It took 3 of us with the Halligan bar. She okay? Shaken up. Minor bruising on her hip from trying to force her bedroom door. The door was wedged so tight we had to take it off the hinges. He's walking me toward the house. It's a brick ranch, identical to every other house on this block. You need to see this. Inside, the house feels wrong. That's not technical language, but it's accurate. The floors aren't level. Nothing's level. Picture frames tilted on the walls. The kitchen door jamb is compressed at the top. I can see where the wood's buckled. In the living room, there's a crack in the drywall running from floor to ceiling at a 15-degree angle. Mrs. Vance is sitting on her couch talking to a paramedic. She sees me and she's already talking. Are you the inspector? Is my house going to fall down? I've lived here 41 years and I've never. Ma'am, I need to assess the structure first, then I'll have answers. Captain Hallis said your bedroom door wouldn't open. Wouldn't budge. I pushed and pushed. I thought maybe it swelled from humidity, but then I tried the bathroom door and it wouldn't open either. Then the front door wouldn't open. I called 911 because I didn't know what else to do. I'm already walking through the house with my level and my tablet. Every doorway is compressed. Every single one. The compression's coming from above, the ceiling's pushing down. Not much, maybe 1/8 of an inch per door. But that's enough to jam everything solid. In the basement, I'm going down there with Captain Hallis and 2 of his crew. The foundation is cracked. Multiple cracks. The main support beam has a hairline fracture running its length. The floor above us has settled. Not collapsed. Settled. Like something underneath stopped supporting the weight. There's a smell down here. Wrong. Chemical. Like copper mixed with something organic I don't have a name for. One of the firefighters, young guy, can't be more than 25, puts his hand against the foundation wall and pulls it back fast. It's warm. The concrete's warm. Hallis checks with his own hand. He looks at me. That's not normal. No, it's not. I'm taking temperature readings with the infrared thermometer from my kit. The foundation wall is registering 67 degrees Fahrenheit. The ambient basement temperature is 54. The wall shouldn't be 13 degrees warmer than the air around it. And there's something else. On the floor near the drain. Dark staining. Liquid. I'm crouching down, getting closer. It's seeping up through the concrete. Through cracks I can barely see. The liquid is slightly viscous. Darker than water. And it smells wrong. Bitter. Chemical. I'm not touching it. What's under the foundation? Hallis asks. According to city records, filled dirt and the original clay layer. But Randy mentioned there's an old utility corridor somewhere in this area. Unmapped. From the 64 infrastructure expansion. You're saying there's a void under this house? I'm saying something's not supporting the load anymore. I'm taking measurements. The laser rangefinder shows the floor-to-ceiling height in the northeast corner is 2 inches less than the southwest corner. That's significant. That's not normal settlement. I need to red tag this structure. Mrs. Vance can't stay here. Where am I supposed to go? She's followed us down to the basement. The paramedics trying to convince her to go to the hospital, but she's refusing. This is my home. I've been here since 1984. I raised 2 children here. I don't have a good answer. The city has emergency housing assistance, but it takes weeks to process. I tell her she can stay with family or friends, and she tells me her son lives in Nevada and her daughter lives in Portland, and she doesn't want to burden anyone. I tell her it's not safe to stay here, and she tells me the house has been here for 70 years and it's not going anywhere. I post the red tag on the front door at 4:47 a.m. Hallis and his crew clear the scene. Mrs. Vance goes to her son's house temporarily. He's driving down from Nevada, should be here by evening. I'm standing on Newhall Street in the pre-dawn dark, and I'm looking at the other houses, and I'm seeing things I didn't notice before. 4820 Newhall, the one Randy mentioned yesterday with the jammed bedroom door. The roof line is off by maybe half an inch. You wouldn't see it unless you were looking. But I'm looking now. 4800 Newhall, the original work order, same thing. Subtle tilt. Maybe a quarter inch. 4770 Newhall, the for sale house I saw last night, definitely tilted. No question. I walk the block. 7 houses showing signs of settlement. 7. All within 200 feet of each other. I'm calling Randy. It's 5:02 a.m. He answers on the 5th ring, and he sounds like I woke him up because I did. Dennis. Randy, we've got a problem on Newhall. I just red tagged 4812. Foundation settlement, full structure compression, resident trapped inside overnight. Fire department had to force entry. Jesus. Okay. I'll get public works out there today for a GPR survey. Randy, it's not just 4812. I'm looking at 7 houses on this block showing settlement. 7. All clustered. This isn't isolated foundation failure. This is something underneath. Silence on the phone. Then, you're sure? I'm standing here right now. I can see the roof lines. They're off. Not much, but they're off. And it's all in the same 200-foot section. More silence. I hear him breathing. Then, okay. Don't file the report yet. I'm calling an emergency meeting with Public Works and the city engineer's office. We need to figure out what's under there before we start red tagging an entire block. Can you be at City Hall at 8? I'll be there. I hang up. I'm getting in my truck, but I'm not leaving. I'm just sitting here watching the houses. The sun's coming up now. 5:47 a.m. People are starting their days. Lights turning on. Someone's backing their car out of a driveway at 4791 Newhall. Life continuing like nothing's wrong. My phone buzzes. Not a call. An alert. The kind that makes that harsh tone. Emergency alert system. Shelter-in-place advisory. Henderson Municipal Emergency Management. Issued 5:51 a.m. Residents of the 4700 to 4900 blocks of Newhall Street, Haverford Avenue, Merchant Street, and Carpenter Avenue are advised to remain indoors pending structural assessment. Do not enter basements. Report any door jamming, window cracking, or floor settling to Building Safety Division immediately. This is a precautionary advisory. Further information will be provided by 12 p.m. today. I'm reading it twice. Shelter in place. Not evacuate. Not leave. Stay inside the houses that are settling. That's the city's first official response. Tell people to stay in structures that are actively failing. Except something is wrong. The ground is wrong. At 7:15, I'm at a Dunkin' Donuts on Merchant Street getting coffee and a breakfast sandwich I won't finish. My phone's been quiet. No new work orders. That's unusual. Normally by 7 a.m. I've got 3 or 4 routine inspections waiting. But today nothing. Maybe Randy put a hold on new assignments until we figure out the Newhall situation. I'm at City Hall at 7:53. The Building Safety Division is on the 3rd floor. Randy's already there with 2 guys I don't recognize and one I do, Lawrence Ming, Assistant City Engineer. He's the guy who signs off on all the major infrastructure decisions. Nice enough, but he's political. Always worried about lawsuits and budgets and public perception. Dennis, this is Trevor Aldrich from Public Works Geotechnical, and this is Patrick Donnelly from the City Attorney's Office. Randy's doing the introductions. I shake hands. Patrick Donnelly looks nervous. That's not a good sign. When the City Attorney's Office shows up to a structural safety meeting at 8 a.m., it means someone's worried about liability. Lawrence takes charge. Dennis, walk us through what you saw. I do. I tell them about the 3 a.m. call, about Mrs. Vance trapped inside her house, about the foundation cracks and the compressed doorways and the 7 houses showing settlement. I show them the photos on my tablet. Trevor Aldrich is taking notes. Patrick Donnelly is not taking notes, and that's worse. When I'm done, Lawrence says, "Okay, Trevor, what's the fastest you can get a GPR unit out there?" "Today. Noon, maybe 1 o'clock. But Lawrence, if this is what I think it is, if there's a major void underneath that neighborhood, we're looking at a serious problem. The 64 infrastructure expansion ran through that whole area. Water mains, sewer lines, storm drainage, electrical conduit, all buried. And the documentation is incomplete. We don't have accurate as-builts for half of it. So you're saying we don't know what's under there. I'm saying we know there's something under there, but we don't know its exact location or its current condition." Patrick Donnelly clears his throat. He's got that lawyer voice. Careful. Precise. If we red tag those 7 houses based on speculation about underground conditions, the city's exposure is significant. We'd be displacing multiple families based on preliminary visual assessment, without definitive proof of structural compromise. The property owners will sue. The insurance companies will sue. We need hard data before we take action. I'm staring at him. People are trapped in their houses. One person was trapped. One. And she's fine. She's out of the structure. Nobody was injured. Yet. Inspector Kowalski, I understand your concern, but we have to balance public safety with. With what? Property values? Lawsuit risk? How many people need to get trapped before we do something? Randy puts his hand on my arm. Dennis. Lawrence is looking at me like I'm being unreasonable. Nobody's saying we don't take this seriously. We're saying we need data. Trevor, get the GPR unit out there today. Full survey of the affected area. We'll have results by end of business. Then we make a decision about red tags and evacuations. Dennis, in the meantime, no more inspections in that neighborhood without consulting me first. Are we clear? Crystal. The meeting breaks up. I'm walking out and Randy catches me in the hallway. You need to dial it back. Patrick's right. We can't just start displacing people without proof. I have proof. I have 7 houses showing structural movement. You have settlement. That's not the same as imminent collapse. You know that. You've been doing this for 16 years. Sometimes foundations settle. It happens. Not like this. Not 7 houses in 200 feet. Then Trevor's survey will show it. Let the process work. Randy's giving me the look he gives me when I'm being stubborn, which is often. Go home. Get some sleep. You've been up since 3 a.m. I'll call you when we get the survey results. I don't go home. I drive back to Newhall Street. It's 9:24 a.m. now. Normal Tuesday morning. Kids getting on the school bus. Someone mowing their lawn 3 houses down. I'm sitting in my truck watching, and I'm thinking about Emma at Roosevelt Elementary, and I'm thinking about how her school was built in 1955, and how the foundation inspection was last done in 2018, and how that's 7 years ago now. I'm thinking about the 64 infrastructure expansion, and how they ran utility corridors under half the city, and how the documentation is incomplete, and how nobody knows exactly what's under there. I'm thinking about Mrs. Vance trapped in her bedroom, trying to push open a door that wouldn't move because her house was compressing around her. At 11:47 a.m., I see the public works truck pull up. 2 guys getting out. They're unloading the ground-penetrating radar unit. Looks like a lawn mower with a computer attached. They start at 4812 and work their way down the block. I'm watching from my truck. They're moving slow, thorough. Every 10 feet, they stop and mark something on their tablet. By 1:30 p.m. they're done. They pack up. They leave. They don't talk to me. I wait. Randy doesn't call. I call him at 3 o'clock. What did the survey show? Still analyzing the data. Trevor says it'll take a few hours. Randy, I'll call you when I know something. He hangs up. I'm still sitting on Newhall Street. It's 3:18 now. I need to pick up Emma at 4 o'clock. Diane's working late today, so it's my day for after-school pickup. I start driving toward Roosevelt Elementary, and my phone rings. It's Randy. Dennis, we've got a problem. How bad? Randy's voice sounds wrong. Tight. The GPR survey shows extensive voiding under the entire 4,700 to 4,900 blocks of Newhall. The old utility corridors are there, but they're not stable. Trevor's saying the tunnel structure has been compromised. Load-bearing capacity is degraded. And it's not just Newhall. The corridor extends under Haverford, Merchant, and Carpenter. I'm pulling over. I'm stopped on the side of the road 3 blocks from Roosevelt Elementary, and I'm looking at my daughter's school through the windshield, and I'm doing math in my head. Roosevelt is on Carpenter Avenue, 1,200 block. Randy, Emma's school is on Carpenter. I know. I'm looking at the map right now. Roosevelt Elementary is outside the current affected zone. Trevor estimates the southern boundary of the void network ends at the 900 block of Carpenter. Roosevelt's at 1,200. You've got a 3-block buffer. How stable is that buffer? Silence. Then, Dennis, Trevor doesn't know. He's never seen anything like this. The voiding is uniform. It's not random subsidence from a collapsed tunnel. It's like the load-bearing capacity of the soil itself has been compromised. The ground is just failing. What do you mean failing? I mean exactly that. The soil isn't supporting the weight above it. Buildings are pressing down, and the ground is giving way. Slowly. But it's happening. And according to the survey data, it's spreading laterally at approximately 40 feet per day. 40 feet per day. I'm calculating. 3 blocks is roughly 900 feet. At 40 feet per day, that's 22 days, Randy says. He already did the math. If the progression continues at the current rate, the void network will reach Roosevelt Elementary in 22 days. We need to evacuate. That's, Dennis, we can't evacuate based on a projection. Lawrence is briefing the mayor's office right now. There's going to be an emergency city council meeting tomorrow morning. They'll make the decision about evacuations and red tags and public warnings. But it's not our call. People are living in houses that are sinking. I know. Kids are going to school over ground that might give way. I know. But we have to let the process. Randy, I don't care about the process. I care about Emma being in a building that might collapse in 3 weeks. It's not going to collapse. Trevor was very clear. This isn't catastrophic failure. It's progressive settlement. Buildings don't fall down. They compress. They settle. They become uninhabitable over time, but they don't collapse. Mrs. Vance was trapped in her house. Mrs. Vance is fine. She got out. Nobody died. Yet, Randy doesn't say anything for a long time. Then, go pick up your daughter. Take her somewhere safe. I'll call you after the city council meeting tomorrow. He hangs up. I'm sitting in my truck and I'm thinking about 40 feet per day, and I'm thinking about 300 kids at Roosevelt Elementary, and I'm thinking about how nobody died yet, but that's not the same as nobody's going to die. I pick up Emma at 4:07. She's mad because I'm late again. You're always late. 7 minutes. That's not always. It feels like always. She's climbing into the truck. Her backpack is covered in pins. She collects them. National parks mostly. We went to Yellowstone 2 summers ago, back when Diane and I were still trying to make things work. Emma bought 6 pins in the gift shop. She still talks about the geysers. Can we get ice cream? Not today. Why not? Because I need to check something at your school. My school? Why? Work thing. It'll take 5 minutes. Emma sighs the way kids sigh when adults are being annoying. I drive back to Roosevelt Elementary. The parking lot's mostly empty now. Just a few teacher cars and the janitor's van. I'm parking and Emma's confused. I thought we were leaving. Stay here. Lock the doors. I'll be right back. Dad. 5 minutes. I'm walking toward the building. Roosevelt Elementary is a single-story brick structure built in 1955. Last structural inspection was 2018. I wasn't the inspector. That was Gerald Wu. He retired last year. The report's in the system. I pull it up on my tablet while I'm walking. Foundation, satisfactory. Load-bearing walls, satisfactory. Overall structural rating, adequate with routine maintenance recommended. That was 7 years ago. I'm walking the perimeter, looking at the foundation. There's a crack in the brick on the east side. Vertical, maybe 4 feet long. Could be cosmetic, could be settlement. I'm taking photos. Another crack on the south side. This one's diagonal, 6 feet long. Definitely not cosmetic. The front entrance. The door jamb looks compressed. Not much, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. But it's there. I'm seeing it now because I'm looking for it. I'm calling Trevor Aldrich. I got his number from Randy this morning. He answers. This is Trevor. Trevor, this is Dennis Kowalski, Building Safety. I'm standing at Roosevelt Elementary right now. I'm seeing settlement cracks. The east wall has a 4-foot vertical crack. The south wall has a diagonal. The door jamb is compressed. Okay, that's, Dennis, I'd have to see it to give you a professional assessment, but settlement cracks in a 70-year-old building aren't unusual. How far south does the void network extend? According to the GPR data, the southern boundary is at the 900 block of Carpenter. Roosevelt's at 1200. It's 3 blocks outside the affected area. But you said it's spreading at 40 feet per day. That's the current rate. It could slow. It could stop. We don't have enough data to predict long-term progression. What if it doesn't stop? Silence on the phone. Then, if it doesn't stop, we'll have time to evacuate the school before the void network reaches the foundation. But Dennis, you need to understand, this is unprecedented. I've been doing geotechnical analysis for 18 years. I've never seen uniform soil failure like this. It's not a sinkhole. It's not liquefaction. It's like the ground itself is losing cohesion. What would cause that? I don't know. Vibration damage to the underground structure. Chemical contamination. Unexpected water infiltration. Could be a dozen things. But whatever it is, it's affecting a massive area. We're talking about potential voiding under 4 square miles of the city. If this continues, we're looking at thousands of structures at risk. 4 square miles. I'm doing the math. That's most of the east side. That's residential neighborhoods, commercial districts, schools, hospitals. Trevor, what's the city council going to do? Honestly, I don't know. Lawrence is pushing for a limited evacuation of the immediate affected zone. The 4,700 to 4,900 blocks of Newhall, Haverford, Merchant, and Carpenter. That's roughly 400 residential units. But it's going to be a political nightmare. Property values will collapse. Insurance companies will refuse to cover losses. The city might be on the hook for millions in displacement costs. What about schools? That's going to be part of the discussion tomorrow. If the city council decides the risk is credible, they'll close schools in the projected expansion zone. But that's a big if. Closing schools means angry parents, media attention, economic disruption. Nobody wants to be the person who caused a panic over what might be a temporary anomaly. I'm looking at Roosevelt Elementary. Emma's sitting in my truck in the parking lot. 300 kids attend this school. If the void network reaches the foundation, the building won't collapse. Trevor was clear about that. It'll just compress. Doors will jam. Windows will crack. And kids will be inside when it happens. Trevor, what's your professional recommendation? Off the record? Evacuate now. Every structure within a half-mile of the current void network boundary. Don't wait for the city council. Don't wait for more data. Get people out. He pauses. On the record, I'm required to present the data objectively and let the elected officials make the policy decision. But Dennis, between you and me, if I had a kid in a school anywhere near this zone, I'd keep them home tomorrow. Thanks for being honest. Good luck. I hang up. I'm walking back to the truck. Emma's on her phone, probably texting her friends. She looks up when I open the door. Are we going home now? Yeah, we're going home. We're driving. Emma's talking about her day. Something about a science project on ecosystems. She wants to do hers on Yellowstone because she remembers the thermal features and the wildlife. I'm half listening. I'm thinking about the city council meeting tomorrow, and I'm thinking about 400 families who need to evacuate, and I'm thinking about how nobody wants to cause a panic. My phone rings. It's Diane. I answer on speaker. Hey, Dennis, can you keep Emma tonight? I've got a work thing that's running late, and I won't be home until 9 or 10. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Emma, honey, you're staying at Dad's tonight. Emma looks annoyed, but she doesn't argue. Diane hangs up. Emma's phone buzzes. She's looking at it. Dad, why did I just get an emergency alert about evacuations? I glance at her screen. Same alert I got. The mandatory evacuation order. 400 units. 72 hours. There's a problem with some buildings on the east side. Foundations are failing. The city's evacuating people so they're safe. Is our house okay? Mom's house. Your mom's house is fine. It's not in the evacuation zone. What about my school? Your school's outside the danger area. For now. For now. She's looking at me. 9 years old, and she caught that qualifier immediately. What does that mean? It means we're monitoring the situation and making sure everyone stays safe. Emma goes quiet. She's still looking at her phone, at the emergency alert, at the words mandatory evacuation and unsafe for occupancy. She's 9, but she's not stupid. She knows something's wrong. We're driving toward my apartment, and I'm thinking about how maybe it's better that Emma's with me tonight. Because if the city council decides wrong tomorrow, if they delay or deny or try to manage this politically, I can keep her home from school. I can keep her safe. At 6:47 p.m., I'm making dinner. Spaghetti. Emma's doing homework at my kitchen table. My apartment is small, 1 bedroom. Emma sleeps on the pull-out couch when she stays over, but it's outside the void network zone. West side of the city. Geologically stable bedrock. No old utility corridors underneath. My phone rings. It's Randy. Dennis, the city council meeting got moved up. Emergency session at 7 p.m. tonight. Can you be there? I've got Emma. Bring her. This is important. Lawrence wants you there to present your findings from Roosevelt. Randy, Trevor already has the GPR data. Trevor has underground data. You have visual evidence of surface-level structural compromise. The council needs to hear from the inspector who's actually seeing what's happening to these buildings. Be there. He hangs up. I look at Emma. Change of plans. We're going to City Hall. Why? Because I have to talk to some people about keeping buildings safe. Boring. Very boring. Bring your homework. We get to City Hall at 7:14. The council chamber is packed. I recognize faces, property owners from Newhall Street, neighborhood association representatives, news reporters with cameras. Patrick Donnelly is here. Lawrence Ming. Trevor Aldrich. Randy. The mayor is at the podium. Margaret Reeves, second term, former corporate attorney, generally competent. She's calling the meeting to order. We're here tonight to address the developing situation in the East Side residential corridor. I've asked City Engineer Ming and Public Works Geotechnical Director Aldrich to brief the council on their findings. Lawrence goes first. He presents the GPR data, shows maps of the void network, explains the 64 infrastructure expansion and the unmapped utility corridors. He's professional, calm. He makes it sound manageable. Trevor goes next. He's less calm. He shows progression charts, explains the 40 feet per day lateral expansion, projects the timeline. If the current rate continues, the void network will extend into the 1,000 block of Carpenter within 3 weeks. That places Roosevelt Elementary, Carpenter Medical Clinic, and approximately 200 additional residential structures in the risk zone. Council member Janet Pryor raises her hand. What are we recommending for evacuations? Lawrence clears his throat. We're recommending a precautionary evacuation of the immediate affected area, 4,700 through 4,900 blocks of Newhall, Haverford, Merchant, and Carpenter. That's approximately 400 residential units. We'll establish temporary housing assistance and work with FEMA to access emergency disaster relief funds. What about the schools? At this time, we're not recommending school closures. Roosevelt Elementary is outside the current affected zone with a significant buffer. We'll continue monitoring and adjust recommendations as needed. I'm standing up. I don't mean to, but I'm standing and I'm talking and everyone's looking at me. That's not good enough. Mayor Reeves frowns. Inspector Kowalski? Roosevelt Elementary is showing settlement cracks. The foundation is compromised. If the void network reaches that building while kids are inside, they'll be trapped. Doors will jam. Windows will crack. We'll have 300 kids in a building that's compressing around them. Patrick Donnelly stands up. Mayor Reeves, Inspector Kowalski is speaking outside his area of expertise. He's a building inspector, not a geotechnical engineer. Mr. Aldrich has clearly stated that Roosevelt is outside the affected zone. For now. For 3 weeks. Then what? Lawrence is trying to be diplomatic. Dennis, we appreciate your concern. But we can't close schools based on a projection that might not materialize. The void network expansion could slow. It could stop. We need more data before we take disruptive action. How much data? How many more houses need to settle? How many more people need to get trapped? Nobody's been seriously injured. Yet. Mayor Reeves holds up her hand. Inspector Kowalski, I understand your concern for public safety. That's your job. But we have to balance immediate risk against economic and social disruption. Closing schools and evacuating thousands of residents based on preliminary projections would cause significant harm. We need to be certain before we take that step. By the time we're certain, people will be trapped in their homes. That's a risk we have to weigh against the certainty of disrupting thousands of lives unnecessarily. I'm looking at her. She's looking at me. Emma's sitting in the back row doing her homework. 300 kids go to Roosevelt Elementary. If I'm right and they're wrong, those kids will be in danger. If they're right and I'm wrong, I'll have caused a panic over nothing. But the ground doesn't care about politics. The ground doesn't care about property values or economic disruption. The ground is failing at 40 feet per day, and it's not going to stop because the city council wants more data. The vote is 6-2. Evacuate the immediate affected zone. Monitor Roosevelt Elementary. No school closures at this time. I'm walking out with Emma. Randy catches me in the hallway. Dennis, you did the right thing. You spoke up, but you have to accept the council's decision. What if they're wrong? Then we'll adjust. That's how the process works. The process is too slow. By the time they adjust, it'll be too late. Randy doesn't have an answer for that. We're standing in the City Hall corridor, and neither of us is saying anything, and finally, he just pats my shoulder and walks away. Emma and I drive home. She's quiet. Finally, she says, Dad, is my school going to be okay? I don't know, honey. That's not a good answer. It's the only honest one I have. We get back to my apartment at 9:33. Emma goes to bed on the pull-out couch. I stay up looking at maps. The void network boundary is at the 900 block of Carpenter. Roosevelt Elementary is at 1200. 3 blocks, 900 feet. At 40 feet per day, that's 22 days. Unless it accelerates. Unless it slows. Unless it stops. I don't know. Nobody knows. And that's the problem. Day 3 after the city council vote. The evacuations are slow. 400 residential units means roughly 900 people. The city's emergency housing assistance can handle maybe 200. The rest are going to hotels, staying with family, or refusing to leave. I'm standing on Newhall Street at 6:47 a.m., but I can't get close anymore. The federal perimeter expanded overnight. Military checkpoints at every intersection. National Guard in full gear. More hazmat teams. I count 7 personnel in yellow suits doing something with equipment I don't recognize. Not GPR. Something else. They're taking soil samples, drilling small cores, sealing everything in containment bags. A Humvee is parked sideways blocking the street. 2 soldiers with M4 rifles. Not pointing them at anyone. Just standing there. Present. I'm watching from outside the perimeter. Helen Pritchard is trying to get back to her house. I can see her arguing with a soldier at the checkpoint. He's shaking his head, not letting her through. She's crying, saying something about medications she left inside. He's not moving. My phone goes off, not a call, a text from Trevor Aldrich. Federal briefing at City Hall. 7 a.m. Attendance mandatory for all project personnel. Don't be late. I drive to City Hall. The parking lot is full. News vans everywhere, more than before. National networks now, not just local. CNN, NBC. Someone set up a satellite truck. Inside, the conference room is packed. Randy's there. Lawrence. Patrick Donnelly. Mayor Reeves. Trevor. And people I don't recognize. Men in suits. A woman in Army Corps of Engineers uniform with colonel insignia. A guy with a CDC badge on a lanyard. The colonel speaks first. Her nameplate says Morrison. Good morning. I'm Colonel Sarah Morrison, Army Corps of Engineers, Disaster Response Division. As of 0600 yesterday, this incident has been classified as a federal emergency under National Response Framework protocols. DHS, CDC, and Army Corps have assumed operational control of the affected zone. Mayor Reeves looks confused. Colonel, with respect, this is a localized geological event. Municipal infrastructure. Why does this require federal intervention? Morrison clicks a remote. A map appears on the screen. The void network. Except it's not the map Trevor showed us. This one has more data. Layers. Analysis I don't understand. Because this isn't a localized geological event. Our analysis indicates the underground corridor system beneath your city is more extensive than anyone realized. The void network isn't following the 1964 utility corridors. It's following something older. Much older. Trevor leans forward. What do you mean older? We found documentation in federal archives. In 1952, the Army conducted underground weapons testing in this region. Project Deepwell. Experimental munitions. They excavated a network of tunnels beneath what is now the East Side residential corridor. The project was classified, decommissioned in 1957. The tunnels were supposed to be sealed and filled. Lawrence is staring at the screen. You're saying there's a military testing facility under our city? Was. Past tense. The facility was abandoned 68 years ago. But the tunnel network remains. And something is causing those tunnels to fail. The void you're seeing isn't soil subsidence. It's structural collapse of the underground military infrastructure. What kind of weapons testing? Patrick Donnelly has his lawyer voice on. Careful. Precise. Morrison doesn't answer directly. The project details remain classified, but our assessment indicates the tunnel collapse is accelerating due to long-term structural degradation and possible environmental contamination. We're establishing full containment protocols and expanding the evacuation zone. Contamination? Randy says it before I can. What kind of contamination? The CDC guy speaks up. Badge says Dr. Kellerman. We're conducting environmental sampling. Air, water, soil. The hazmat protocols are precautionary. We have no evidence of biological or chemical hazards at this time, but given the nature of the original facility, we're taking appropriate safety measures. You're not answering the question, I say. Everyone looks at me. You're in hazmat suits. You're drilling soil samples into containment bags. You're treating this like a contamination site. What exactly did the Army test down there in 1952? Morrison's face doesn't change. That information remains classified. What I can tell you is that the current risk to public health is from structural collapse, not contamination. The evacuation orders stand. The school closures stand. And as of this morning, we're expanding the federal emergency zone to include all structures within half a mile of the projected void network expansion path. Half a mile. I'm doing the math. That's most of the east side. That's thousands of structures. Tens of thousands of people. You're evacuating half the city, Mayor Reeves says. We're evacuating everyone who might be at risk. The alternative is leaving people in structures that could fail without warning. Morrison clicks to another slide. Medical documentation. Incident reports. Timestamps from yesterday morning. This individual was found deceased in the basement of 4847 Newhall Street yesterday, Morrison says. Her voice is flat. Clinical. He ignored the evacuation order. Went back for personal belongings. He was exposed to organophosphate contamination for approximately 4 hours. By then, acute toxicity had progressed to respiratory failure and cardiac arrest. Death occurred before emergency services could respond. The room is silent. There have been 3 confirmed fatalities from contamination exposure, Morrison continues. All individuals who violated the evacuation orders and re-entered red zones without protective equipment. We expect more as the contamination spreads, which is why we need full cooperation from municipal authorities and rapid evacuation compliance from residents. Patrick Donnelly clears his throat. Lawyer voice gone. Just shock. 3 dead? Why wasn't this disclosed to the public? Because we don't want panic. We don't want riots. We want orderly evacuations. If people know there have been casualties, some will stampede. Others will refuse to believe it's real and stay put. Either way, we lose more people. Morrison looks at Mayor Reeves. That's why this information is classified. You can tell people about the structural failures. You can tell them about groundwater contamination. You do not disclose the fatalities. Are we clear? Morrison looks directly at me. Inspector Kowalski, I understand you red-tagged Roosevelt Elementary against direct orders. That decision saved lives. We need people like you willing to act decisively. I'm offering you a position as civilian liaison for the evacuation operations. Full federal authority. You'll work directly with my team. Randy's staring at me. Lawrence looks uncomfortable. The mayor's face is unreadable. What happened to my suspension? I ask. Morrison smiles slightly. Federal jurisdiction supersedes municipal employment disputes. You're whatever I say you are. Right now, I'm saying you're the person who understands this city's infrastructure better than anyone in this room. We need that expertise. I'm thinking about hazmat suits and classified weapons testing and underground tunnels from 1952 and how none of this makes sense. You don't need hazmat gear for structural collapse. You don't seal soil samples in containment bags for foundation failure. You don't bring in DHS and CDC for buildings settling. But I'm also thinking about Emma and Diane's house at 1450 Carpenter and how half a mile puts them inside the new federal emergency zone. I'll do it, on one condition. Name it. You tell me what you're really looking for down there. Morrison's smile disappears. I told you what I can tell you. The rest is classified. Then I'm not interested. Inspector Kowalski, people are going to die if we don't evacuate them in time. You can help save them, or you can let your pride. It's not pride. It's knowing when I'm being lied to. You're treating this like a contamination event, which means there's something down there you're worried about beyond structural collapse. And if I'm going to help you evacuate half this city, I need to know what I'm evacuating them from. Morrison looks at the CDC guy, then at Mayor Reeves, then back at me. Fine. Limited disclosure. This stays in this room. She clicks the remote again. The screen shows a document, heavily redacted. I can barely read it. Project Deepwell tested experimental chemical weapons. Nerve agents. They're stable when sealed. But if the tunnel collapse has compromised the storage containers, if those agents are released into the groundwater or the soil, we're looking at a public health emergency that makes structural collapse look minor. The room goes quiet. My phone rings. Trevor Aldrich. Dennis, we've got a problem. What now? The void network expansion rate increased overnight. We're now measuring 53 feet per day. Not 40. 53. I'm doing the math. 900 feet at 53 feet per day is 17 days, Trevor says. If the rate holds, The void network reaches Roosevelt Elementary in 17 days. Have you told the city council? Lawrence is briefing them this morning. But Dennis, there's something else. We're getting reports of settlement in areas we didn't expect. The 5100 block of Haverford, the 1000 block of Merchant. These are outside the projected expansion zone. The voiding isn't spreading uniformly. It's jumping. Jumping. The underground utility corridor network is more extensive than we thought. There are lateral connections we didn't know about. The void network is following those connections. It's not a straight line progression. It's branching. I'm standing on Newhall Street watching people evacuate their homes, and I'm listening to Trevor tell me the ground is failing faster than anyone predicted in places we didn't expect, and I'm thinking about Emma at Roosevelt Elementary, and I'm thinking about how 17 days is not enough time. Trevor, what's your recommendation? Close the schools. All of them in the East Side corridor. Today. Don't wait for more data. Don't wait for council approval. Just close them. That's not my call. Then make it someone's call. Because if those schools are open when the void network reaches their foundations, we're going to have dead kids. And I don't want to be the engineer who knew that was coming and didn't do enough to stop it. He hangs up. I'm calling Randy. He doesn't answer. I call Lawrence Ming directly. He picks up on the third ring. Dennis, I'm in a meeting. Lawrence, I just talked to Trevor. The expansion rate increased. 53 feet per day. And it's branching through the utility network. We need to close the schools. The council is meeting at 10 to discuss revised evacuation zones. I'll present Trevor's new findings. Lawrence, we don't have time for meetings. Close the schools today. I can't do that without council authorization. You know that. Then get authorization. Dennis, I understand you're worried about your daughter, but we can't shut down the entire East Side school system because of a projection that might change tomorrow. We have 16 schools in the affected corridor. That's 4,000 students. Parents work. Families depend on school schedules. We can't disrupt that without absolute certainty. How certain do you need to be? How many kids need to get trapped before it's enough? That's not fair. Fair doesn't matter. Safe matters. Lawrence is quiet for a moment. Then, I'll recommend emergency school closures at today's council meeting. But I can't promise they'll vote for it. And even if they do, implementation takes time. We need to notify parents, arrange alternative care, coordinate with the school district. We're looking at minimum 2 days before we can close. 2 days? That's the fastest we can move. I'm sorry. He hangs up. I'm standing on Newhall Street, and I'm watching a moving truck pull away, and I'm thinking about 2 days and 17 days, and how those numbers don't add up to safe. I drive to Roosevelt Elementary. It's 7:52 a.m. Kids are getting off buses. The parking lot is full. Life continuing like nothing's wrong, because nobody told them anything's wrong. I'm walking the perimeter again. The cracks are bigger. The vertical crack on the east wall is 6 feet now. Was 4 feet 2 days ago. The diagonal crack on the south wall is 8 feet. Was 6 feet. I'm taking photos. Measurements. The front entrance door jamb compression is now 1/4 inch. Was a 1/16 of an inch 2 days ago. The building is settling. Actively. Right now. I'm calling the school. The receptionist answers. Roosevelt Elementary, this is Brenda. Brenda, this is Dennis Kowalski, Building Safety Division. I need to speak with Principal Whitmore immediately. He's in a meeting. This is an emergency structural safety issue. Get him on the phone now. 30 seconds later, Principal Richard Whitmore picks up. I know him. We met at a parent-teacher conference last year. Nice guy. Cares about the kids. Inspector Kowalski, what's the emergency? Principal Whitmore, your building is settling. I'm standing outside right now looking at settlement cracks that have increased significantly in the past 48 hours. The foundation is compromised. You need to evacuate the building. Evacuate? I haven't received any notification from the district or the city. I'm notifying you now. This building is not structurally safe. Inspector, I can't evacuate 300 students without authorization from the superintendent. If you want to red tag the building, you need to file official paperwork through your department. Until then, we're following normal operations. Principal Whitmore, if you keep kids in this building and it settles while they're inside, doors are going to jam. Windows are going to crack. Students will be trapped. I'm giving you official notification right now that this structure is unsafe. Then file the red tag paperwork. Follow the process. Until I see official documentation from the Building Safety Division, School remains open. He hangs up. I'm standing in the Roosevelt Elementary parking lot, and I'm holding my phone, and I'm looking at 300 kids inside a building that's sinking, and I'm thinking about process and paperwork and how long that takes. I call Randy. Randy, I need to red tag Roosevelt Elementary. Dennis, you can't red tag a school without departmental approval. Lawrence needs to sign off. The superintendent needs to be notified. We need to coordinate with the school district. How long does that take? 2 days minimum. Probably 3. There are procedures. Randy, the building is actively settling. I'm looking at cracks that grew 2 feet in 2 days. The door jambs are compressing. If we wait 3 days for procedures, kids are going to be inside when this building fails. Dennis, it's not going to collapse. Trevor was clear about that. Progressive settlement doesn't cause collapse. It causes compression. People get trapped in compression. Mrs. Vance got trapped. If 300 kids get trapped because we waited for procedures, that's on us. Randy doesn't say anything for a long time. Then, where's Emma right now? Home. I kept her home today. So your daughter is safe. My daughter is safe because I can keep her home. What about the kids whose parents don't know? What about the kids whose parents can't stay home from work? What about them? Dennis, I can't authorize a school red tag without going through proper channels. You know that. If you tag that building without authorization, you'll lose your job. The city will be liable for the disruption. And if you're wrong, if the building doesn't fail, you'll have caused a panic for nothing. And if I'm right, then you'll have saved lives. But you'll still lose your job. That's a trade I can live with. Dennis, don't do this. Let the process work. I hang up. I'm standing in the parking lot, and I'm looking at the building, and I'm looking at my red tag papers in the truck, and I'm thinking about 300 kids and 17 days and procedures that take 3 days, and how the math doesn't work. I'm thinking about Emma safe at home and Helen Pritchard crying on her lawn, and Mrs. Vance trapped in her bedroom. I'm thinking about Lawrence Ming saying, we need absolute certainty, and Mayor Reeves saying, we have to balance immediate risk, and Principal Whitmore saying, follow the process. The ground doesn't care about process. The ground doesn't wait for certainty. The ground fails at 53 feet per day, and it doesn't stop because we're not ready. I'm getting the red tag from my truck. I'm walking toward the building. The bell rings. 8 a.m. School starting. 300 kids inside. I'm at the front entrance. Brenda, the receptionist, sees me through the glass. She's unlocking the door. Inspector, Principal Whitmore said. Where is he? In his office, but... I'm walking past her. Down the hallway. Second door on the left. Principal Whitmore's office. I'm opening the door. He's at his desk on the phone. He sees me, and he's already shaking his head. I'll call you back. He hangs up. Inspector Kowalski, I told you. I'm putting the red tag on his desk. This building is structurally unsafe. Foundation settlement is active and progressive. I'm ordering immediate evacuation of all occupants. You can't do this without authorization from your department. I'm a certified structural inspector for the city of Henderson. I have the authority to red tag any structure I deem unsafe for human occupation. This is my professional assessment based on direct observation of accelerating structural failure. You have 30 minutes to evacuate this building. I'm calling the superintendent. I'm calling the mayor. I'm calling. Call whoever you want. But if you keep kids in this building after I've posted this red tag, the liability is on you. Not the city. Not me. You. Personally. I'm walking out. Brenda's staring at me. Principal Whitmore is following me into the hallway shouting something about procedures and authorization. I'm not listening. I'm posting the red tag on the front entrance. Big red X, structure unsafe for occupancy. Evacuation required. Kids are staring from classroom doorways. Teachers are confused. Principal Whitmore is on his phone talking to someone, probably the superintendent. I don't care. I'm walking to my truck. My phone is already ringing. It's Randy. I don't answer. It rings again. Lawrence Ming. I don't answer. It rings again. Mayor's office. I don't answer. I'm sitting in my truck watching Roosevelt Elementary. It takes 12 minutes for the first bus to arrive. 23 minutes for the full evacuation. 300 kids standing in the parking lot confused and upset. Parents showing up demanding to know what's happening. News vans pulling in with cameras. One of the teachers, I recognize her, Mrs. Patterson, Emma's teacher, is trying to calm the kids. She's smiling, telling them it's just a precaution. Everything's fine. but her hands are shaking. I can see them shaking from here. A girl, maybe 10 years old, blonde hair in a ponytail, is crying, saying something about her brother. He's in the basement. The janitor's office. Mrs. Patterson's face goes white. She's running back toward the building. Principal Whitmore catches her, stops her. They're arguing. I can't hear what they're saying, but I can see Mrs. Patterson pointing at the basement entrance. Whitmore's shaking his head. He's pulling out his radio, calling someone. Fire department arrives 6 minutes later. Captain Hallis again. 2 crew members with respirators and portable air tanks. They're going in, not running, moving careful, deliberate. I'm sitting in my truck and I'm not breathing, just watching. The basement entrance, waiting. They're in there for 11 minutes. When they come out, Hallis is on his radio. His face tells me everything. The EMTs go in next. They're in there for 8 minutes. When they come out, they're not moving fast. One of them is shaking his head. Mrs. Patterson collapses. Other teachers catch her. The blonde girl with the ponytail is being held by another teacher, turned away from the building. But she knows. They all know. The building compressed while the janitor's son was in the basement. The door jammed. He couldn't get out. By the time they reached him, it was too late. If I'd been 1 day later posting that red tag, if I'd waited 1 more day for authorization, 300 kids would have been inside when this happened. Not just 1, 300. My phone rings. It's Randy. I answer. Dennis, what did you do? I red tagged Roosevelt Elementary. Without authorization. Without consulting me. Without following any of the procedures we have specifically designed to prevent. Randy, that building is settling at a measurable rate. The cracks grew 2 feet in 2 days. The foundation is compromised. I did my job. Your job is to follow protocol. Your job is not to unilaterally shut down a school based on visual assessment without departmental approval. My job is to keep people safe. No, your job is to make professional structural assessments within the framework of municipal building code enforcement procedures. You don't get to decide policy. You don't get to cause a citywide panic because you're worried about your daughter. This isn't about Emma, isn't it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're using your position to protect your kid while disrupting 300 other families. I'm quiet. I don't have an answer for that because maybe he's right. Maybe this is about Emma. Maybe I'm only taking this seriously because my daughter goes to this school, and if she went somewhere else, I'd be following procedures like everyone else. Or maybe the problem is that everyone else is following procedures while the ground fails and kids sit in buildings that are sinking. Randy, you told me once that my job is to declare buildings unsafe. That's what I did. Your job is also to follow the chain of command. Report to City Hall immediately. Lawrence wants to see you. And Dennis, bring your badge. He hangs up. I'm sitting in my truck watching 300 kids evacuated from a school that might or might not fail in 17 days, and I'm thinking about Helen Pritchard crying on her lawn, and Mrs. Vance trapped in her bedroom, and how nobody died yet. Yet, my phone rings. It's Diane. I answer. What happened? Emma's school is evacuated? The news is saying. Emma's fine. She's home. The building's not safe. I red tagged it. You, Dennis, do you understand what you just did? You shut down Emma's school without authorization. You're going to lose your job. How are we supposed to pay for it? Diane, I kept 300 kids from being trapped in a building that's settling into the ground. If I lose my job, I lose my job. You always do this. You always think you know better than everyone else. You always, she stops. Takes a breath. Just be careful. Okay. Emma needs you employed. She hangs up. I'm alone in my truck in the Roosevelt Elementary parking lot, and I'm watching news cameras filming the evacuated kids, and I'm thinking about how 17 days from now we'll know if I was right. 17 days from now the Void Network will reach this foundation, or it won't. The building will settle further, or it won't. Kids will be safe because I evacuated them, or I'll have disrupted their lives for nothing. 17 days. I'm driving to City Hall. It's 9:47 a.m. I'm walking into the building safety division, and Randy's waiting with Lawrence Ming and Patrick Donnelly and Mayor Margaret Reeves. The mayor speaks first. Inspector Kowalski, you unilaterally shut down a public school without authorization, without consulting the school district, and without following established procedures. Do you understand the severity of what you've done? I understand I red tagged an unsafe structure. That's my job. Lawrence has my preliminary assessment report. You're basing this red tag on visual observation of settlement cracks. No engineering analysis. No structural testing. No peer review. Just your personal judgment. My professional judgment, based on 16 years of experience and direct observation of accelerating structural failure. Patrick Donnelly has his lawyer voice on. Inspector, the city's potential liability from this action is substantial. We're looking at lawsuits from parents who missed work, economic losses from the school district, reputational damage from the panic you created. The only way we can defend against those claims is if your assessment is proven correct. If that building doesn't fail, if the void network stops or slows, you will have caused significant harm without justification. And if it does fail, then you'll have saved lives, but you'll still have violated protocol. You'll still have acted outside your authority. Mayor Reeves is looking at me. Inspector Kowalski, I'm suspending you effective immediately pending an investigation into your conduct. You'll surrender your badge and your city equipment. You'll have no authority to conduct inspections or post red tags until this matter is resolved. Randy steps forward. He's not looking at me. Mayor Reeves, I'd like to request that Dennis remain on staff in a consulting capacity. His knowledge of the affected area could be valuable as we. Request denied. Inspector Kowalski has demonstrated he can't be trusted to follow procedures. He's off the project entirely. She turns to me. You can appeal this suspension through the civil service process. But until then, you're done. I'm putting my badge on the table. My tablet. My keys. I'm walking out of City Hall, and I'm unemployed, and I'm thinking about how Emma needs me employed, and how Diane's going to be furious, and how I might have just destroyed my career over a building that might not even fail. But 300 kids aren't sitting in Roosevelt Elementary right now. 300 kids are safe at home because I posted that red tag. And if the void network reaches that building in 17 days like Trevor projects, those 300 kids will still be alive because I was willing to lose everything to keep them safe. If I'm wrong, I'll have ruined my life for nothing. If I'm right, I'll have saved 300 lives and nobody will thank me. I'm driving home. It's 11:23 a.m. My phone rings. It's Trevor Aldrich. Dennis, I heard what happened. I'm sorry. Don't be. I made my choice. I wanted to tell you. The city council just voted to close all East Side schools effective tomorrow. You were right. They're closing them. How many schools? 16. 4,000 students. They're setting up remote learning for the next 3 weeks while we monitor the void network progression. 4,000 students. Safe at home. Not sitting in buildings that might settle. Not getting trapped when doors jam and windows crack. My phone buzzes again. Another alert. I pull it out while Trevor's still on the line. Emergency notice, school closures. Henderson Public Schools Emergency Management. Issued, 11:31 a.m. All schools in the East Side corridor will be closed effective immediately for a minimum of 3 weeks due to ongoing structural concerns. Affected schools, 16 total. Roosevelt Elementary, Carpenter Middle School, East Side High School. Full list available at hendersonseahools.gov. Remote learning protocols will begin tomorrow. Parents will receive individual notifications from school principals by end of business today. This closure is precautionary and based on recommendations from City Engineering and Public Works Geotechnical Divisions. Trevor, thank you for telling me. Dennis, for what it's worth, you did the right thing. You saw what needed to be done, and you did it. Even when it cost you everything. Everything except what matters. I hang up. I'm pulling into my apartment complex, and Emma's inside doing remote schoolwork, and Diane's probably already talking to her lawyer about custody modification, because unemployed fathers don't look good in family court. My phone rings again. Unknown number. I answer. Kowalski. Inspector Kowalski, this is Colonel Morrison. The offer still stands. We need you. I thought I turned you down. You turned down working blind. I'm offering you full transparency. You want to know what we're dealing with? Join the team and I'll read you in. Everything. The classified files. The test results. What we're finding underground. But I need your answer now. We're moving the evacuation timeline up. Soil samples came back positive for organophosphate compounds. The nerve agents are in the groundwater. Low concentrations so far, but they're spreading. We have maybe 72 hours before contamination levels become acutely dangerous. I'm sitting in my truck and I'm thinking about organophosphates in groundwater and Emma at home and how 72 hours isn't enough time to evacuate thousands of people. I'm thinking about the incident reports Morrison showed us. The man who went back for personal belongings. 4 hours of exposure. Respiratory failure. Cardiac arrest. I'm thinking about the janitor's son, 10 years old, trapped in a basement when the door jammed, gone before they could reach him. How many more are there? I ask. More what? Casualties. How many more people that you're not telling anyone about? Morrison is quiet for a long time. Then, as of this morning, 7 confirmed fatalities from structural incidents. 11 from contamination exposure. We're finding more every time we sweep the red zones. People who didn't evacuate. People who went back. People who didn't believe it was real until it was too late. 18 dead. 18 people who didn't get out in time. I'm in. When do I start? Tomorrow morning. 0600. Report to the Federal Command Post at the Newhall perimeter. Bring your city credentials and your inspection equipment. An inspector, thank you. She hangs up. But 300 kids, 4,000 kids, aren't sitting in buildings over failing ground and nerve agent contamination. 18 people are dead. But it could have been 300. It could have been 4,000. It could have been every kid in every school on the east side if I'd waited for authorization and followed procedures and let the meetings run their course while the ground failed and the nerve agents spread. 18 dead. Not 300. Not 4,000. The math is brutal. But it's math I can live with. And 17 days from now we'll know if I saved them or if I destroyed my life over a projection that never materialized. 17 days. The ground is still failing at 53 feet per day. The void network is still branching through the old utility corridors. The buildings are still settling. And I'm sitting in my truck watching people evacuate their homes, and I'm thinking about how the ground doesn't care about my career, or my custody arrangement, or my professional reputation. The ground just fails. At 53 feet per day. And it doesn't stop. Day 18. Roosevelt Elementary settled 6 inches overnight. The entire south wall compressed inward. The roof buckled. The windows on the east side cracked, not shattered, just spiderwebbed with fractures. The front entrance door is wedged at a 17-degree angle. Would have taken 3 men with crowbars to open it. Would have taken longer if 300 kids were inside screaming. Trevor called me at 6:14 a.m. with the measurements. The void network reached Roosevelt's foundation at 2:23 a.m. according to the seismic monitoring equipment Public Works installed. Progression rate had accelerated to 61 feet per day by day 15. Slowed to 58 by day 17. Reached the school right on schedule. You were right, Trevor said on the phone. Didn't sound happy about it. Sounded tired. The building's uninhabitable. Complete structural failure of the foundation support system. If you hadn't evacuated, he didn't finish. Didn't need to. I'm standing outside Roosevelt Elementary at 7:42 a.m. looking at the building. The settlement's visible now. The whole structure sits lower than it did 3 weeks ago. Maybe 8 inches. The playground equipment in back is tilted. The flagpole leans at 5 degrees. The parking lot has cracks running through it like someone took a hammer to concrete. The basement entrance where they found the janitor's son is sealed now. Yellow hazard tape. Concrete barriers. Nobody's going in there. The compression was so severe that the space is no longer accessible. It's just concrete and crushed structural material. The federal perimeter expanded 3 days ago. Military checkpoints are everywhere now. National Guard maintaining the evacuation zones. Hazmat teams working in shifts. I see them in the distance, yellow suits moving through the empty neighborhood taking samples. Humvees patrolling the streets. And recovery teams. That's new. White vans with CDC markings. Teams in full hazmat gear going house to house through the red zones. Looking for people who didn't evacuate. People who might still be in there. The official count is 32 fatalities now. 18 from contamination. 14 from structural incidents. But I've seen the classified reports. The real number is higher. They're finding people in basements. In spaces that compressed. In houses where the doors jammed and windows cracked, and there was no way out. The evacuation zone reached Diane's house yesterday. She and Emma are staying at a hotel on the west side now. Outside the contamination radius. Safe. For now. My phone buzzes. Emergency alert. I've been getting these every few days now. Evacuation order expanded. Contamination risk. Henderson Municipal Emergency Management /DHS. Issued 7:19 a.m. Mandatory evacuation extended to include 1,000 to 1,200 blocks of Carpenter Avenue, 5,000 to 5,200 blocks of Haverford Avenue. All structures within marked hazard zones. Map, henderson.gov/void network. Organophosphate contamination detected in groundwater samples. Residents must evacuate within 48 hours. Do not drink tap water. Do not enter basements. Emergency decontamination stations available at Henderson Community Center, Westfield Recreation Complex, National Guard Staging Area, Route 9. This is a federal emergency. Failure to evacuate is a violation of federal law. The contamination zone is growing faster than the structural failures. The nerve agents in the groundwater are spreading through the old utility pipes, following the same corridors the void network is collapsing through. My phone rings. It's Randy. We haven't talked since the suspension. Dennis. Yeah, the mayor wants to see you. Today, 2 p.m. City Hall. Why? I think she wants to unsuspend you. The city council's asking questions about who knew what and when. Your red tag decision is looking a lot more justified now that Roosevelt's sitting 6 inches lower than it was 3 weeks ago. I'm not interested in being unsuspended. Dennis. I'm serious. I did what I had to do. I'm not going back to work for people who only cared about safety after they got proof that I was right. Randy's quiet for a long time. Then, what are you going to do? I don't know yet. I hang up. I'm still standing outside Roosevelt Elementary. A news van pulls up. Reporter gets out with a cameraman. I recognize her, Angela Torres, Channel 7. She covered the Ferndale sinkhole. Inspector Kowalski? I'm Angela Torres with. I remember you. Can I ask you a few questions about the school evacuation? No. The city's saying you red tagged this building 18 days ago without authorization. Now the building's structurally compromised exactly as you predicted. Do you feel vindicated? I look at the building, at the settled foundation and the cracked windows and the buckled roof. I feel tired, but you saved 300 children. I posted a red tag. That's my job. That's all I did. You violated protocol. You risked your career. Some people are calling you a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm a building inspector who looked at a structure and saw it was failing. That's not heroic. That's basic competence. Angela's cameraman is filming. She's got her reporter voice on. The mayor's office says they're reviewing your suspension. Will you return to work if they ask? I don't know. What would you say to other city employees who see something dangerous but are told to wait for authorization? I look at her, at the camera, at the building behind me that would have had 300 kids inside when it settled if I'd waited for authorization. I'd say to your job, the real job, not the paperwork job, the job where you keep people safe even when it costs you everything. I walk away. Angela's calling after me, but I'm not stopping. I get in my truck and I'm driving, and I don't know where I'm going. I end up at Newhall Street, the evacuated zone. The 4,700 to 4,900 blocks are empty now. All the families moved out. The whole area is fenced off with chain link and hazard tape. Signs everywhere, danger, structural instability, and no trespassing. I park outside the fence. I'm walking along the perimeter. Every house on this block is settled now, some worse than others. Mrs. Vance's place at 4,812 is down maybe 14 inches. The roof's partially collapsed. The porch is tilted at 23 degrees. The whole structure looks wrong, compressed like something stepped on it. For blocks of houses, maybe 80 structures total, all uninhabitable, all lost. Insurance companies are fighting about coverage. Property owners are suing the city. The mayor declared it a local disaster area, but FEMA's still reviewing the request for federal assistance. Nobody died. That's what everyone keeps saying. Nobody died. But 80 families lost their homes. 4,000 kids lost 3 weeks of school. The economic damage is estimated at $340 million and climbing. The city's talking about condemning the entire East Side corridor if the void network doesn't stop. My phone rings. Diane. I answer. Yeah. Dennis, I talked to my lawyer about the custody arrangement. Given everything that's happened, the suspension, the news coverage, she stops. He thinks we should keep the current schedule. You made a difficult decision, and you were right. Emma's safe because of what you did. That matters. I don't say anything for a while. Then, thank you. The mayor's office called me. They want to know if you're going to accept reinstatement. What did you tell them? I told them it's your decision. But Dennis, Emma needs you employed. Child support, health insurance, all of that. You can't just walk away because you're angry at the process. I'm not angry at the process. I'm angry that the process required 300 kids to be at risk before anyone took the threat seriously. Then fix the process. Go back. Change it from inside. She hangs up. I'm standing outside the Newhall evacuation zone looking at 80 destroyed homes, and I'm thinking about how you can't fix a process that values property over people. You can't fix a system that requires absolute certainty before it acts. You can't fix bureaucracy that moves at meeting speed while the ground fails at 61 feet per day. But maybe you can work around it. Maybe you can be the person who posts the red tag before the meeting happens. Maybe that's enough. I drive to City Hall. It's 1:47 p.m. I'm early. The mayor's assistant says she'll see me in 15 minutes. I sit in the waiting area looking at my phone. There's a message from Trevor Aldrich. Dennis, latest projections show the void network expansion is slowing. We're down to 32 feet per day as of this morning. Might be reaching natural boundaries of the old utility corridor system. Still too early to be certain, but there's a possibility the spread might stabilize within the next month. Thought you'd want to know. 32 feet per day, down from 61. That's good news. Maybe. Unless it accelerates again. Unless it branches somewhere new. Unless the ground decides to fail in ways we haven't predicted. The mayor's office door opens. Margaret Reeves is standing there. Inspector Kowalski, come in. I follow her in. Lawrence Ming is there. Patrick Donnelly. Randy. They're all standing around the desk like this is a trial. Mayor Reeves sits. Inspector Kowalski, I asked you here because the City Council has reviewed your actions regarding Roosevelt Elementary. In light of the subsequent structural failure of that building, the Council has determined that your red tag assessment was professionally justified. Your suspension is lifted effective immediately. You're reinstated with full back pay. What about the protocol violation? We're implementing new emergency protocols that give senior inspectors increased authority to red tag structures in cases of imminent danger without requiring prior departmental approval. You'll be expected to help develop those protocols. So I'm being rewarded for doing exactly what you suspended me for. Patrick Donnelly clears his throat. Inspector, the city recognizes that you acted in good faith based on your professional assessment of immediate danger. The suspension was issued under protocols that have since been determined to be insufficient for rapidly developing situations. We're correcting that oversight. You're covering your asses. You suspended me to avoid liability. Now you're unsuspending me because the liability is worse if you don't. Mayor Reeves doesn't disagree. She just looks at me. Are you accepting reinstatement or not? I think about Emma, about child support and health insurance and custody arrangements. I think about Diane saying, Emma needs you employed. I think about 80 families who lost their homes and 4,000 kids who lost 3 weeks of school and 300 kids who didn't get trapped in a building because I was willing to lose everything. I'll come back, on one condition. What condition? Trevor Aldrich gets final say on red tag decisions in the affected zone. Not Lawrence. Not the city council. Trevor. If he says a structure's unsafe, it gets tagged immediately. No meetings. No votes. No waiting for certainty. Lawrence starts to object. Mayor Reeves holds up her hand. Agreed. Anything else? Yeah. When this is over, when the void network stabilizes or we finish evacuations or whatever happens, I want you to explain to those 80 families on Newhall Street why the city waited until their homes were sinking before it took the threat seriously. I want you to tell them about meetings and procedures and political calculations. I want you to look Helen Pritchard in the eye and tell her why protecting property values was more important than protecting her house. That's not fair. None of this is fair. But it's honest. That's the deal. Trevor gets authority. You get honesty. Take it or I walk. Mayor Reeves is quiet. Then she nods. Fine. Report to Randy tomorrow morning. You're back on active duty. I walk out. Randy follows me into the hallway. Dennis, thank you for coming back. We need you. You need someone willing to post red tags when you won't. That's not, he stops. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. I drive home. Emma's there doing schoolwork on her laptop. Remote learning. Week 4 now. The school district's looking at relocating Roosevelt Elementary permanently. The building's too far gone to repair. They're talking about modular classrooms in the parking lot of Merchant Park. Should be ready by fall. Emma looks up when I come in. Dad, are you going back to work? Yeah, tomorrow. Good. Mom said you need the money. Your mom's right. Were you scared? When you shut down my school. I sit down next to her. Terrified. But you did it anyway. I did it because I was terrified. Because being scared means you see the danger clearly. The people who aren't scared are the ones who don't understand what's happening. Emma thinks about that. Then, when can I go back to real school? I don't know. Couple months, maybe. They're figuring it out. Do you think our house is safe? Mom's house. I think about the void network map. About the 900 block of Carpenter Avenue. About how Diane's house is at 1450 Carpenter, outside the current affected zone, but not by much. About how 32 feet per day could reach that location in. I think your mom's house is probably fine, but I'm going to check the foundation this weekend, just to be sure. What if it's not fine? Then you'll both move somewhere safe. That's what red tags are for. Emma goes back to her schoolwork. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, and I'm thinking about how Roosevelt Elementary is uninhabitable, and how 80 families lost their homes, and how the void network is still expanding at 32 feet per day, and how nobody knows when it'll stop. My phone buzzes. Another alert. They come every day now. Sometimes twice a day. Ongoing emergency, structural failure and contamination. Henderson Municipal Emergency Management /DHS/CDC. Issued 3:42 p.m. The void network beneath East Side residential and commercial districts continues to expand. Current rate, 32 feet per day, down from 61 feet per day. Contamination update. Organophosphate levels increasing in affected zones. Do not drink tap water in evacuation areas. Decontamination required for all residents leaving red zones. Medical monitoring available at federal health stations. Current situation. Total structures evacuated, 2,347. Total residents displaced, 6,800. Red tag structures, 892. Federal emergency zones, 8 square miles. Military/hazmat personnel deployed, 340 plus. Confirmed fatalities, 32 structural, 14 contamination, 18. Missing persons under investigation, 47. Residents in evacuation buffer zones must evacuate within 48 hours of notification. This is a federal mandate. Any person entering red zones without authorization and proper protective equipment is at risk of death. Expansion projections and updated hazard maps posted daily at 6 p.m. This is an ongoing emergency situation. I'm looking at the numbers. 2,347 structures evacuated. 892 red tagged. 32 confirmed dead. 47 missing. 8 square miles under federal emergency control. And the void network is still expanding at 32 feet per day, while nerve agents leak into the groundwater. The missing persons number doesn't tell the whole story. They're finding people in houses that compressed. People in basements. People who didn't make it out in time. I'm thinking about Helen Pritchard crying on her lawn, and Mrs. Vance trapped in her bedroom, and 300 kids who would have been sitting in Roosevelt Elementary when it settled 6 inches overnight. I'm thinking about the janitor's son, 10 years old, found in that basement. The report said he was trapped when the door jammed. It took time, too much time. Nobody knew he was there until they went looking. I'm thinking about the incident reports from 4847 Newhall, the contamination exposure case. 4 hours from contact to death, respiratory failure, cardiac arrest, gone before emergency services arrived. I'm thinking about Project Deepwell and classified weapons testing and how the Army buried nerve agents under a residential neighborhood in 1952 and never told anyone. I'm thinking about hazmat teams in yellow suits drilling soil samples and National Guard checkpoints and how this stopped being about building inspections and became about federal cover-ups and contamination zones and evacuating thousands of people from their homes. I'm thinking about how the ground failed and the city waited and people lost everything while bureaucrats had meetings about whether the risk was real enough to justify action. Nobody died. Everyone keeps saying that, like it's a victory, like evacuating 80 families and condemning their homes is acceptable because nobody died. But death isn't the only way to lose. Sometimes you lose your home. Sometimes you lose your school. Sometimes you lose faith in the people whose job it is to keep you safe. The ground failed at 61 feet per day and nobody stopped it because stopping it would have been expensive and disruptive and politically difficult. So the ground kept failing until the cost of not stopping it was higher than the cost of action. That's not safety. That's damage control. I'm starting work tomorrow. I'm going back to posting red tags and filing reports and following the new emergency protocols that wouldn't exist if I hadn't violated the old protocols. Except now I'm working for Colonel Morrison and the Federal Emergency Response Team. I'm not just inspecting buildings anymore. I'm coordinating evacuations. I'm briefing hazmat teams on structural access points. I'm explaining to National Guard commanders which buildings are safe to enter and which ones are compressing too fast to risk personnel. I'm going back because Emma needs me employed and because someone has to be willing to post the red tag before the building falls and before the nerve agents reach lethal concentrations in the groundwater. But I'm not going back because I trust the system. I'm going back because the system needs people who don't trust it. People who look at the cracks in the foundation and say, this isn't safe, before the meetings and the votes and the calculations about political risk. People who look at hazmat teams and classified files and ask, what are you hiding? I'm going back because 300 kids are alive and safe, and they'll never know how close they came to being trapped in a building that settled 6 inches in one night while nerve agents leaked into the soil beneath them. They'll never know about the janitor's son, about what happened in that basement, about how the door jammed and nobody knew he was there until it was too late. They'll never know that if I'd waited one more day, just one more day for authorization, they would have been there too. 300 kids in a building that was compressing. 300 kids trapped behind doors that wouldn't open and windows that cracked and hallways that got narrower until there wasn't any way out. 187 children attend Roosevelt Elementary on a typical Tuesday morning. The janitor's son makes 188. One casualty, not 188. The math is brutal, but it's math I can live with. And I'm going back because the void network is still expanding at 32 feet per day, and there are still houses out there, still schools, still hospitals, still people sitting on ground that's losing the ability to support them while nerve agents leak into their water supply from weapons tests conducted 70 years ago by people who thought burying the problem meant it would stay buried forever. Someone has to post the red tags. Someone has to evacuate the people. Someone has to stand at the checkpoints and tell families they can't go home because their house is sitting over contaminated ground and collapsing tunnels and classified weapons that nobody told them about. Someone has to coordinate the recovery teams. Someone has to brief the hazmat crews on which structures are too compromised to enter. Someone has to look at the reports and know that more people are being found every day. People who didn't evacuate in time. People who went back for something they couldn't leave behind. Might as well be me. Outside my window, the city continues. People drive to work. Kids do homework. Life happens like nothing's wrong. But underneath the streets and the buildings and the parking lots, the ground is failing and the nerve agents are spreading. Slowly, measurably, unstoppably, and nobody knows when it'll stop, or if it'll stop, or what happens if it doesn't. The ground just fails. 32 feet per day, every day, while we measure and monitor and evacuate and hope we get everyone out before it's too late. I'm a building inspector. My job is to declare structures unsafe. Now my job is also to declare ground unsafe, water unsafe, entire neighborhoods unsafe because of something the government buried 70 years ago and hoped would never surface. Now my job includes coordinating evacuations, briefing hazmat teams, working with recovery operations, explaining which areas are too dangerous to enter. That's all I can do. That's all anyone can do. The ground decides the rest. The ground and the nerve agents and the classified secrets nobody wanted to acknowledge until buildings started sinking and people started getting trapped and the truth came up through the cracks in the foundation, whether anyone was ready for it or not. The hazmat teams keep drilling. The National Guard keeps patrolling. The evacuation zones keep expanding. The casualty count keeps rising. 32 confirmed. 47 missing. More found every day. And I keep posting red tags. Because that's the job. Because someone has to. Because the alternative is letting people stay in houses over failing ground and contaminated water and sealed tunnels full of nerve agents that are slowly, inevitably, leaking into everything. The alternative is 300 kids in a building that compressed. 300 families getting the news. 300 losses that could have been prevented. One casualty. Not 300. The math is brutal. The math will haunt me forever. But it's math I can live with. The ground doesn't care about classified projects or federal jurisdictions or the 70 years between burying a problem and that problem coming back to destroy a city. The ground just fails. And it doesn't stop. And people keep dying. And all I can do is post the red tags and hope we get everyone out before the next building compresses. Before the next person goes back for medications or photo albums or pets. Before the contamination reaches someone's basement. Before it's too late. That's the job. That's all it's ever been.